Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. So today's video going to cover a topic that I've been getting a ton of questions on. It's regarding the KD Box 2. So we're going to cover different projections, see what it looks like. Another question I've been getting a lot is it worth it to get even from like a spec mining perspective, even just farther down in the bull run from that perspective. So I'm going to go over some quick projections so you can kind of get an idea of where I'm coming from when I gave the other review that I did, right? So I'm going to throw in the hash rate projections, and we're going to look into whether it's more worth it to just buy KDA outright versus buying this guy, right? So if that sounds interesting, guys, stay tuned. So let's get right to the vid. So we know the KD Box 2, if you're watching this video, I'm sure you're well aware of the stats. You know its price, you know it just got released. So let's throw it in a calculator, right? So I use CryptoCalc, just different calculators. This is just one I use. So let's throw in the stats in here so we can have something to compare to, right? So we know it's 5 terahash at about 400 watts. This is based off of a 10-cent kilowatt hour. And this is our yield, okay? One thing you want to get in the habit of is not looking at your fiat value, okay? Because we know that can fluctuate drastically. Crypto is crazy like that. Tomorrow, KDA can 5x, or it can go down 190%. We don't know. Very volatile. At the end of the day, what you do want to focus on is your actual yield, right? Because this way you can really make good projections in the future based off of the fact that, okay, I'm going to get X amount of KDA, but I'm going to value my KDA at previous all-time high at 25 bucks. That way you have a better reference. That way you can really project in the future, right? Not just the current value, okay? So now let's take a quick look at the current hash rate, okay? So as we see, the last video I did, I think we're at like 201, 202, something like that. So we have seen a recent increase, right? Did go sideways for a little bit, but ultimately, especially this past few days, has been going up, right? So currently it's at 211 petahash. Most likely this is from the IB link, right? We do know that BMK3 came out. We do know that it has shipped. A lot of people are receiving them, and a lot of people are going to continue to receive them, okay? So we're going to throw out a projection based off of the KA3 though. That's the main monster. That's the one that we want to really keep our eyes on, okay? So when we throw this projection out, just keep in mind that this is purely off of the KA3. And this is not even including the IB link, these additional Goldshell units, and these even more additional Goldshell units that I'm sure are going to be dropping in the next few months here, right? So keep that into account. So now let's look at the beast, right? The KA3. So now let's factor in how much of an effect it's going to have on our yield, okay? We know that it makes 166 terahash. So again, this is a projection, right? We do not have actual numbers of how many are manufactured, how many are getting shipped on this first batch, which technically is going to be 2 batches because of this delay. It looks like both batches are going to ship at the same time. But regardless, this is just the projection, okay? But again, this is also the biggest factor into profitability, at least in the near term, okay? In the long term, there's going to be even more units, but let's focus on what's going on right now and how many units may ship, okay? I'm going to put this projection as only 2,500 units getting shipped. Basing it off of just a smaller number, right? It can be significantly more. It could be this amount. It could be only 250 units, which I highly doubt. But again, anything is possible. Just throwing a number out there. Again, it can be drastically worse. It can be this amount. We don't really know. But again, to me, 2,500 is fairly conservative. Most likely, I think it's going to be more. But let's just throw that out there. All right, so we know that the unit is going to produce 166 terahash, right? So now let's multiply these numbers. We know it's 166 terahash. We're going to times it by our prediction of how many units. We're just throwing out the 2,500 number out there, okay? So if that many units come out, it's going to bring 415,000 terahash to the network, okay? So we have this converter here, which is just dividing it by 1,000. It's just easier to visually see it this way. So it's going to add an additional 415 petahash to the network, okay? So let's go back to the network. The hash rate is about 211. We'll do easy math. We'll call it 200, and we'll call that increase 400, right? Bring us to a grand total of 600 petahash if the existing current hash rate stays on, right? We can add it on. We don't know if that's going to happen. We don't know. Again, we don't really know. We're just projecting it based off of that. So theoretically, if it 3x's from here, we can pretty much say that our yield is going to get cut into a third, right? So now we know that we're going to get 1.4 a day currently. Okay, so now let's throw that little projection in there. Let's divide that by 3. So 1.4, we're going to divide that by 3, giving us 0.46 KDA a day based off of that many units getting shipped, right? So now we have something to compare with that thread on there. So now let's look at if we were to just buy KDA outright, right? Let's put in that the unit that we bought it at $350, right? So we're going to plug in that number, 350 bucks, and we're going to divide it by the current price, which is $1.24. Okay? So we're going to divide that by $1.24 to see how many we would get if we were to just buy $350 worth of Kadena, right? And the number we get is 282 Kadena. Okay? So if instead of buying the miner, we were to just buy it outright at the current price, which you can argue is inflated because of this pump we just had, right? We don't know if it's going to go up or down, so that's why we're just basing it off of today's price, right? So we have 282 Kadena if we bought it outright. So now let's divide that by the 0.46 we would be yielding per day if we bought this miner, right? So divide by the 0.46 because that would be our daily yield. So we can see how long it would take us to mine that amount of Kadena if that hash rate were to hit. So it would take us 613 days to mine that same amount of Kadena. This is just for you to break even. Okay? Again, this is only if 2,500 units ship. If 5,000 units get shipped, 7,500, 10,000, it's going to go up drastically. Okay? So this is why I'm saying you have to take these things into consideration. Is it possible that instead of 2,500 units get shipped, only 250? Yes. Is it likely? In my opinion, no. Okay? To me, it's also not likely that they're going to release 10,000 units either, because at that point, the profitability would tank so hard, nobody's going to want to buy these things. Most likely, because they know what kind of effect it's going to have on the hash rate. It's not like it's a mystery. They know, and that's why they know how many units they're going to produce. They're not giving this number out because of that. To me, the most likely scenario is, again, as we mentioned, these releases seem to be a direct hit with Goldshell, right? So to me, most likely they're going to release the amount that is going to make Goldshell pretty much not profitable at all, right? Again, purely speculative. We don't know, but to me, they're all. Also, the other reason I'm saying 2,500 is fairly conservative, because as we've covered these other, mining farms and their purchase orders for BTC miners, which has nothing to do with this essentially, but it is still from Bitmain, we can see those purchase orders are like in the tens of thousands, right? So we do know that they have the capability of releasing that many units, okay? So again, this projection is based off of only 2,500 units getting shipped. Even if not that many get dropped on that initial release, factor in that it's almost guaranteed that throughout time, within the next 6 months to a year plus, the hash rate will definitely get hit that hard. Okay, so keep that into mind. And this is also not factoring in, like I said, that BMK3, the KD7 when it comes out sometime this spring, most likely, the KD Lite 2, etc., right? 613 days, a lot is going to happen between now and then. Okay, chances are the hash rate is going to be a whole different thing by then, right? So just, you gotta really factor that in, guys. This is a huge thing. And again, these projections are specific to the KD box and even the CK box because of Bitmain's releases. Okay, so that's why it's specific to those. There's always going to be a threat of a bigger, better miner, right? But we know that this is coming now. It's not speculative. It is coming, and in the next few weeks, even if it get delayed another 2 months, okay, it's still coming. It's going to be here, right? So again, the review is harsh, but I would just want to open your eyes to the realization of what is possible and what is likely. Okay, but again, it is specific to these, right? Other miners come out as they release them. it's not going to have that great of effect, right? Like when we get the mini Doge 2, which I'm sure is going to be announced here in the next coming weeks, we're not going to have this crazy threat, right? At least not now. I'm sure there'll be a L8 or L9 in the future, but not now. Okay, so again, this is specific to these because of these machines coming online. Okay, so also keep that in mind. So the other big concern, or the other big reason I'm kind of against it, is because of just how far behind the tech is as far as the chips go inside the unit. Like I mentioned in that other video, in my opinion, it's 2 generations behind, right? To me, this IB Link is so much more efficient that this would be 1 generation ahead, and then the KA3 is yet another generation ahead of this one. Okay, so that's my biggest gripe with it when I'm talking about the efficiency, right? Because if we were to do a calculation, because let's say it's a scaled down version of even this guy, the BMK3, it would be a much better buy at that point, right? Because at least at that point, you're 1 gen behind. It doesn't have to have that KA3 efficiency, but at least if it were with this gen, it would be more of a buy, right? So let's take that comparison, right? If we do a quick efficiency check on this guy, let's do the 3300 watts. We're going to divide it by the 70 terahash. And that's going to bring us to 47 watts to terahash. The other guy, the box 2, it's at closer to like 80 watts to terahash, meaning this guy is twice as efficient, right? The reason that's a cause for concern here is that if we were to get something as at least efficient as this guy, we would be way better off. Okay, so now let's divide it to see if it were as efficient as this guy in a scaled down version of that Goldshell, what it should be at, right? So we would take the 400 watts, which is what the KD Box 2 is currently using. We're going to divide it by that 47 because it's 47 watts to terahash. Okay, meaning that if it were a scaled down version of this guy, right, it should be producing 8.5 terahash versus the 5. Okay, and it's because of that efficiency. So at least if it was a scaled down version of this, it would be more appealing, right? At least being 1 gen behind. But the fact that it's 2 gen behind is what I'm not liking too much, right? So let's throw this in the calculator, right? If it was this efficient. Okay, so again, the 8.5 divided by 400 would be yielding 2.3, right? Which is a pretty big difference just based off of efficiency, based off of the newer chips. Okay, so my review is critical of it, not just because, you know, it's a scaled down version of it, it would take whatever. It's just the fact that this should be closer to what the numbers should be for this current gen. Okay, especially if we get dumped on with a KD7 here in the next 3 months that has the efficiency of this guy, or a KD Lite 2 that has the efficiency of this guy, and it's going to render these even more useless because, again, it has the same efficiency essentially as the previous gen. There wasn't much of a pickup. If anything, it just seems like they put 2 hash boards in there or double the amount of chips in the machine versus it being a good upgrade, right, as far as the tech goes, like the BMK3 was. Okay, which again, I'm referencing the BMK3, but that still is way behind even the KA3, right? So just, you have to keep these things into perspective and why I'm saying the things I'm saying, right? So yeah, guys, just want to give you a different perspective so you can see what I'm talking about, right? And again, also keep in mind my perspective. My perspective is coming purely from the point of profit, right? Not just fiat value, but as far as in terms of like yield. Okay, like I mentioned in my goals video, my point of view is strictly from stacking the most amount of coins as possible. Whether it's buying directly, buying more hardware, mining it, whatever, right? My goal is just to yield as many coins as possible. And whenever I rate something, it's based off of that. It's based off of the numbers, based off of risk to reward, and how I'm going to get the most amount of coins for my money, right? Everybody's perspective is going to be different. Everybody's use case is going to be different. Okay, some people, again, are going to want to just support the network. Some people are going to want to burn excess solar they have. Some people just want to dabble into mining, right? Again, my review is very harsh because I just want to give you guys the facts, give you guys some numbers, give you guys the math, and not just like being biased on Kadena. Because for those of you who have followed me and been watching my videos, you know that I'm very bullish on Kadena. But when I do these video reviews of miners and hardware, I do not want to take that into account. I don't want to show any bias there. This is why I'm so big on showing you guys the math, showing you guys how I'm coming up with these calculations so you can verify it for yourself. But again, everybody's use case is going to be different. Everybody's reasoning for purchase is going to be different. But I just want to give you my perspective, right? Does that mean that mine is the most correct? No, not at all. And that's why I encourage you guys to look at other people's reviews, research the coin yourself, research the machine yourself, put in these numbers in the calculator and see what makes most sense to you, right? Because at the end of the day, if you're super bullish on it, maybe you're a TA guy and you see, a potential 5x coming in the next couple of days, and maybe you're just, testing the waters essentially, right? Or maybe you're just buying on the anticipation that the price will increase here short term, and you just want to buy it so you can flip it because you think the price is going to 5x here soon. Everybody has different reasons, but again, I just want to give you my perspective and why my review of it initially was so harsh, and this is specifically why. So you guys can see, for those of you who haven't watched any of those in-depth reviews on the other, like the KA3 and the BMK3 and such, right? That way you can really see where I'm coming from and where my perspective is. Because again, my reviews are coming from the fact that if, one of my boys asked me, or a family member asked me, or my neighbor asked me, hey, thinking of getting this, should I get it? Exactly what I'm telling you guys is exactly what I would tell them. So what I would tell anybody, okay? My perspective is completely unbiased. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I have no affiliation with anybody. This is just my viewpoint of it, right? Again, coming from that perspective of, it's literally in the name, from a mining stacker, where I'm just stacking as many coins, as many hardware for this bear market that we're currently in, right? So thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you got some value from the video. Again, we are a smaller channel, guys, so commenting, liking, subbing, it does make a huge difference for us, right? So again, if you find some value, please consider those options. And again, thank you for watching, guys, and I am out.